Ndileka Mandela has released a book called I'm Ndileka, More Than My Surname. She joins me in studio now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. That's quite a title. Who are you?
Good evening, Nsinga, and to the viewers. Well, I'm the first of the first of the first. First grandchild of Nelson Ndileka Mandela from his first wife, from his first son, Timbile.
You grew up, and you speak about it quite a lot, without knowing your father, also without knowing your paternal grandfather. How do you think that's shaped you and the kind of experiences that you've had that you described in the book?
Well, predominantly I was shaped by Evelyn, my grandmother, because I started staying with her from the age of 2. So I would say I have a strong, because she was a very strong woman who had a very dominant male side to her. So my view of life and my character was shaped by her, and being a strong woman, and having now as an adult, in retrospect, there's pockets of things that are missing in my life, but I've learned to navigate, because I believe children need both parents. And that absent father for me made me have daddy issues at some point in my life, where I had to go through therapy, and I talk about it in the book, and how therapy helped me navigate that space. But not having dad in my life, because dad died when I was 4 years old, granddad sort of took over that role when I started seeing him at Robben Island at age 16. So inadvertently, granddad became my father. More than a grandfather.
You speak about the therapy that you had to go through. How important do you think therapy is for dealing with issues? And do you think in South Africa at the moment it's an accessible way for the majority of people?
Unfortunately, it's not. And therapy is quite important, because it gives you the ability or an opportunity to be able to talk to a neutral person, because oftentimes it's hard to unburden yourself to a family member, because you are scared of being judged. And a neutral person like a therapist can be able to give you an objective view, because they are not involved in your life as a family member would. So for me, it helped me quite a lot, because a lot of things I could not deal with. I could not deal with the fact that granddad, when he was released, he became more inaccessible to me than he was when he was in prison. Something that I could not wrap around my head, and for the longest time I was angry about. And through therapy, I learned to navigate that. But it was a journey, because I was in therapy for 3 years. Yeah.
You also speak in the book about what you feel is a lack of visibility or erasure of Nelson Mandela's first wife and your grandmother. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think that, I believe that Nelson Mandela's life has been told through one narrative that prevails, and that narrative expunges my grandmother and my father as such. And through this book, this is what I wanted to redress, the role that my grandmother played in my grandfather's life, and the role of my father. Because if you look pictorially, dad is in most pictures that I would see of him is that of a child. In people's minds, although they know that he grew to be a 24-year-old, because people always associate pictures with something that is real, he never grows. So I had to resurrect him from child mode to adult mode through this literary work, and point out that he got married, he got me and my sister Nandi, and he lived. He's more than just a son that died tragically in a car accident at the age of 24 in Toes River. He lived, and he was much more involved in my grandfather's life, because as I would explain in the book that, through the book that Fatima Mir wrote, Higher Than Hope, she talks about how Mama Winnie, would talk about how dad had to, because when granddad was underground, was, at Lily's Leaf, he used to come and visit, and he was sworn to secrecy that he mustn't tell his mother. And Mama Winnie marvels at the fact that Dad was 13 years at that age, and how he could hide such a secret from not only from his mother, but from his sisters. And that's you know, the pain that he masks, that they couldn't access, the other siblings could not access the father. So he also played a role in Umkhonto. So he's not just a person that died tragically suddenly at the age of 24, because in all the books that have been written about my grandfather, that's the sum total of his life. He lived, he died in a car accident, and that's it, boom.
What's the importance of telling stories that aren't the main narrative, or that aren't heard as often as the narratives that you speak about?
It is posterity, and also to fill in pockets of life that is missing in an icon's life. For instance, my grandfather is always portrayed as this, you know, he's this iconic man, this messiah, and this who's devoid of sin. He's so much more than just a politician. He was a father. He was a grandfather. That's the story that I had to tell, that he was more than just a politician. He was a father, a grandfather, an uncle, and those are the parts of his life that I narrate through the book, that I related to him differently than any other person would see him as a politician.
Mm-hmm. When you speak about the way that people viewed your grandfather, you also say that the fact that your surname is the Mandela surname doesn't necessarily mean that it comes with privilege and the perceived perks. One would find that hard to believe. Talk to us about what that actually means.
Well, it means that, you know, I have to pay my bills like everybody else. I suffer through the normal things people suffer. So, you know, I can be broke at times. At one point, I was homeless, which I talk about in my book. And I got raped, I got abused. So people think that, you know, coming from this iconic family is, you know, these are the things that don't happen to you. And, you know, having the Mandela name means that you, at a click of a finger, you can just summon anybody in the world and they would, you know, rush to help you. Taking a picture with Oprah Winfrey does not mean that I'm on speed dial with Oprah, you know, and these are the things that I talk about. And only Granddad could be able to do that because he had paid his dues. And I believe I have to pay my dues as well to society for society to be able to take me the way that my grandfather was taken. I doubt if I'll reach that level, you know. But, you know, it is to illustrate that it's really not a bed of roses. It's you. And the flip side of that is also the fact that because of the Mandela name, even if you are broke, and I would say to you, you know, please loan me some money, I'm broke, you find it hard to believe, as you say. And yet it is a reality that we all we go through.
Okay. You've spoken about needing to pay your dues in society. You've been an ICU nurse. You've started a foundation as well. So I think you have a lot of insight into what kind of society we live in, especially the majority of South Africans who are still struggling economically, struggling in terms of basic services and the like.
It's disheartening because my foundation, the Ndileka Mandela Foundation, deals with people in the rural areas. And to come face to face with the daily lives of the people in the rural areas, like I say, it's disheartening. I mean, you are dealing with communities that have to walk long distances to fetch water. One of the schools that I adopted, which is Blackberry, had children that have to travel far and wide to come to school. And these are girls that can be subjected to being raped on the way to and from school. I deal with communities that do not have sanitary wear, girls that miss school because they have lack of sanitary wear. I deal with people that, you know, my inbox is forever flooded with people that are asking for funds. You know, I don't have food, I haven't eaten in 3 days, I don't have money for electricity. So these are the daily things that people are subjected to, and they don't have access to health. I mean, I get I see posts even on social media of hospitals in the Eastern Cape that are literally falling apart, of patients that are eating food that is not conducive to their healing, because as a nurse, I know you have to eat a well-balanced diet even for your treatment to be able to work. So these are the communities that I deal with on a daily basis.
When you hear conversations around your grandfather's legacy, do you get affected, especially if they're moving away from that very one path narrative that you've spoken about, to saying perhaps that there were things that were done wrong there, and not venerating him as much as a hero?
Well, to that I would say every leader leads within a context. The context of the time that they found themselves in was a different context from now. And I would also go on to say that their mandate was political freedom in our time. They achieved that. What is the mandate of this generation? Instead of pointing fingers, what are they doing? What is their mandate? What do they seek to achieve? Because that generation of granddad, Sisulu, Tambo, achieved their objective, which was freedom in our time.
Ndileka Mandela, thanks so much for your time on SABC News, speaking to us about her new book, I'm Ndileka, More Than My Surname. Let's go to